this place is surreal. Nobody cares.
Welcome, my friends, to the Quay Radio Hour, your home for free and critical thinking, and I'm your host, Mike Williams. Tonight, Ole Dammegård returns to the show. Ole is one of the preeminent researchers studying and exposing the dark business of assassination and false flags. He's a prize-winning author, investigator, and former journalist. Ole dedicated more than 30 years of his life to solve the mystery behind the assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme, a dangerous undertaking which cost the lives of two of Ole's colleagues. His extensive research has also revealed incredible links to other big political events like the killing of John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, John Lennon, and many others, as well as the cold-blooded sinking of the MS Estonia, which resulted in the loss of almost 1,000 innocent lives. Ole's work is completely self-funded, so if you could take a moment after the show and visit his website, lightonconspiracies.com, and consider donating or sponsoring his work, Ole would be greatly appreciative. Tonight's discussion is a questions and answers format where Ole answers frequently asked questions submitted by you, our listeners. And so without further ado, here's Ole Dammegård. I have about 10 or 11 questions here that subscribers have written to me over time because your videos are very popular on my YouTube channel. And I was wondering if you wanted to do a little Q&A.
For sure.
Okay. All right, so the first question is, Mike, when Ole researched the Olof Palme assassination, how did he know where to begin? Did he have a plan on how to proceed, or was it more trial and error?
Total trial and error. I would say focus on error. And I didn't have a clue. You know, I was stumbling into this with no idea what I was getting myself into. Maybe if I'd known the magnitude of it, I would have backed out, you know, because it was along the way, it's been so scary, so awful. I had friends murdered. I had to leave my home country. So, I mean, this is big. For me, this is big. And no structure, no idea. I was just gathering pieces. I became almost obsessed, you know. It's like a treasure hunt almost, you know. But in this area, I just found one piece there, one piece over there, one piece here. Do they fit together? Not at all. But then the more pieces I got together, I started to manage to put them. They started to fit together in a way. But it was like a jigsaw with a picture side down, so that I had no idea what the main picture would look like. It was only when big parts of it was complete that I could start turning it around and see what I was actually doing. And that was just like mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing.
So how did you start, Ole, from the perspective of getting to talk to people? Did you just show up at a location and start asking questions? Did you have specific people in mind that you wanted to speak to? How did that work?
If we're talking about the Olof Palme assassination,
yeah.
Okay. I moved to Stockholm when I discovered that they were using the same template as in the Kennedy brother assassinations and Martin Luther King and so on. That was a template that by studying these cases so intensely, that I started seeing that, wait a second, they're doing it again, and I found I put together like a template. I've never seen that in writing anywhere, but I just felt that boom, boom, it's like a bullet point list how they carry these things out, with a lone crazy guy with an investigation of their own, with commissions following to just cover the whole thing up, you know, all of these things. So when I discovered that they were actually using the exact same template in Sweden, that was just incredible. Because following the template from the other assassination, I was able to predict what they were going to pull off in Sweden, you know. And when they did that, I remember the very day when I had predicted that within a week or two, they're going to do exactly this if they follow the template. And then, boom, in the newspaper, the exact same thing. Absolutely freaked me out, because I thought, that means I'm living in a different country that I thought I grew up in. Because then there is massive corruption behind the scenes, and a dormant violence in this country that I had no idea about even existed. So what I did was I moved to I moved to Stockholm. I took a job as a bus driver. And what I did was that there was a small group of people. There were about 8 or 9, 10, mostly elder gentlemen who were very, very concerned about what happened in Sweden. This was a year after the assassination, because they've started seeing that, whoa, the official story, it is just absolutely not true. And here we are, there's some like right-wing police officers that are being openly accused by their colleagues, saying, well, this guy is involved and the evidence is pointing that way and so on. So anyway, I went and I started going to these private meetings. These were mostly former lawyers, police officers, custom officers, businessmen and stuff. And I was so much younger than them. And I was just sitting there in the background, listening, learning. And then what I did was I went home to each one of them, and just listened to them, because they were so used to people just going, oh God, can you please shut up? You know, I've had it, because they were so determined to find out the truth. So nobody could listen to them. There was just too much, at that time at least, you know, nobody was open to this information.
Yeah.
So when I came around saying, please tell me, they were like, oh, party time. So they went for it, you know, and in their homes, I copied all the materials. I mean, thousands of documents, photos, and you name it. And I just started gathering together of it. And then, meaning that I got a much more complete picture of the whole thing than most, because all of these people were more or less, they were so focused on one piece of the puzzle, each of them. You know, they had their little specialty around whatever had happened. And then it was in some years later, in 92, I was so focused on trying to track down the assassins, and I managed to do that. I tracked down sleeping agents and people involved and so on. And then a man by the name of David Icke came to Stockholm. Had never heard of him at that point. And a friend of mine said, do you want to come? There's this guy talking about conspiracy. I said, why not? I went. We were like 88 people paying in the audience. It was a big place, but there was one over there, two over there, three here. This guy came up on stage, David Icke. I mean, he transformed my life that day in a few hours, because what he did was, I had been looking at so many details in this mystery around the assassination, and there were so many leads pointing upwards in a pyramid-shaped form, but I could not put the top. I didn't get it. I couldn't connect the dots at all, because I was still in Sweden, where all of these leads were just taking me up into like a fog. And then dear Mr. Icke came and just put the top of the pyramid on top of the whole thing right in front of my eyes. Oh, I tell you, I was so grateful. I was so grateful to this man, because suddenly it made sense. Suddenly, boom, I could see, oh shit, this is what has been happening right in front of our eyes, and no one has seen it. So people think that I've been following David over the years. I've read half a book, but that was so powerful. The truth shall set us free. I just got exactly what I needed to. It was like the formula. He showed me the formula. He gave me the details. He was the one that pointed out the problem, reaction, solution. He was the one doing that. And my God, when he did that, it was just like suddenly I could see. So absolutely, I'm so grateful to him. And I know lately he's been going through, he's being attacked from all kinds of different directions. I tell you, I owe that man a lot. And I would say I know few people who have done more for the world than he has. I mean, he's been pulling a truckload on his shoulders, taking all kinds of attacks and crap and whatever trouble over the years, when no one else was talking about these things. No one. He had the courage to stand up. So I really applaud this man.
I agree 100%, Ole. I saw David back in 2011. He played to a packed house in Cleveland. I had Rebecca with me, and she had never listened to or heard of David Icke. I had, but I said to her, just take a listen. So that was like an all-day event. I think it was something like 8 hours. It's unbelievable how prepared that man is. And she was blown away. And I agree with you. You know, he takes a lot of flack, and people take a lot of cheap shots at him. But, you know, David was talking about the pedophilia, and today it's all over the mainstream news today about the pedophilia with the elites. He was way ahead of the game talking about Zionism. And
we talked about this in the early 90s.
Right, and nobody was listening at the time. And you know, he takes probably his biggest beating when he starts talking about the reptilians. You know, but then again, people are talking about archons, some kind of unseen force which is affecting humanity and so on. So pick your flavor is basically how I look at it. And when I spoke to David about a year ago or so, he came on the show. He said to me, "Look, Mike, I was talking about reptilians. Can be archons, and so on." So he was going down that road. Look, really, the moral of the story is that there are unseen forces, in his research, in his opinion, that are directly responsible for a lot of the issues and the problems and the struggles that humanity has. So, and a lot of people take shots at him, quite honestly. They haven't read any of his material. They watch maybe 2 or 3 minute clips on YouTube. They don't watch any of the full-blown documentaries or his presentations. So I'm with you on that. I think David's done unbelievable work, and more people should be tipping their hat to what he's done.
I tell you, I always stay away from the reptiles because I'm not sure. I have no idea.
Yep.
I know that so much else that he has said was true, but I've stayed away because I saw what had happened to his credibility when he went down that road.
Yep.
And I didn't feel passionate about looking in these areas, so I just totally left it to the side.
He's probably thinking to himself, I should not have gone down that road, because 2020 is hindsight. I don't know whether he feels that way. I'm thinking if I were him, I would probably be thinking to myself, okay, that got me a little derailed.
Or spot on.
Or spot on, yeah.
You know, because that is what he believes he is. And I can only say that there's things here that I don't get, you know, the mentality behind these agendas. In my world, absolute madness.
Yeah.
I don't get it at all. There's no empathy, no nothing. And if you come from a reptilian point of view, if you start looking like that, then suddenly it makes sense. I don't know. And I just also want to point out now when we're applauding David Icke here, please remember this was way before the internet. This was way before this type of information was readily available. I mean, I started in '84. That's when I started waking up. I mean, I've been spending thousands of hours, you know, down in dusty file cabinets and archives, and where now you just on the keyboard, boom, you got the image, boom, you got the fact. Thank you very much. That's it. So people who, like David, who was gathering this information that is so available to all of us now, should be applauded big time, I think, because. And he put himself on the line in a way so brave, so brave. He was ridiculed in the whole of the UK. He used to be a TV presenter, you know, sports commentator, and he used to be a football player. He had a career, you know, he was someone, and then it just went zoop down the drain when he had the guts to stand up. So he had to pay a high price. But at the same time, I think he mentioned once that was what got him going. He had nothing to lose. So he was just going to go wherever the truth led him, and he has been doing that. And what I love about him is that if you see it, he points fearlessly on all of these details, but he comes from a point of compassion and forgiveness and love in the background. That is the whole idea, how to lift this to the next beautiful level of awakening. I can only, he is I think he's totally unique. There's so many other researchers and people like myself and so on, but we are in a totally different level. I would say he stands up because he was the one that opened the door for the rest of us.
Yeah, he was the foundation, and
Yeah,
others took that foundation and they start
yeah,
to build a house and going in
yeah.
different directions. So,
And he did an incredible job.
yeah. Here's a second question, Ole. This is an interesting one. Of all the areas Ole has researched, is there one area where he felt the greatest concern for his safety and well-being, and maybe he should back off?
I tell you, I think more people than one has thought that I should back off. Uh, at the moment, I'm digging very much into this Norway massacre, and I've been told to back off there. I've been. They wanted to arrest me. Also, my book publisher, it turned out that he was there to control me, which was very odd to experience that. You know, a very sad experience to see that, and he also gave me a subtle, indirect death threat. But I think that was from a friend's point of view, just saying back off, back off.
Was this the book Coup d'etat in slow motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is now on Amazon, I would say, because after that happened, I decided let's go for it. So I did it myself. That it's in 2 volumes. You can Coup d'etat in slow motion. If you want to support me, please buy my book. But the one that has put most concern in my life is the Olof Palme one, because that was so face on. When you see people dying around you, that is very. It is a hard experience and very scary experience.
Now, you had 2 colleagues that were killed?
Yeah.
Okay.
They died under mysterious circumstances, but the top police chief that was the first police at the site when Palme was shot, he devoted his whole life, he's not among us anymore, his whole life to bring this to the surface, what actually happened. And he labeled both of these deaths as murder. So it's not just me speculating. One of his head bashed in, and the other one died from a very, very violent cancer that went for his brain.
Oh, okay. The next question is related. It says, the person asks, how does Ole's family feel about his work? Would they prefer he do something different for a living?
This is not my job, you know. It's like somebody said yesterday, you know, maybe you shouldn't focus so much on your career. I'm not doing a career. I'm trying to help us get through this difficult, you know, time. I want a blue sky. I want fresh fruit, you know, not GMOs. I want my daughter to grow up in a beautiful world in harmony where everything is in balance. I want the wars to stop. I want people to be friendly to each other, loving to each other. And in that respect, my family totally backs me, behind me. At the same time, I'm putting them in tricky situations sometimes as well. This is not easy, you know, and thank God I got a beautiful sweetheart that supports me most of the time in this, even though she gets very nervous at times because I have a tendency to push, and also she's worried about my health when it comes to burning myself out because I'm just pushing too much. I tell you, I'm one stubborn son of a bitch, that I can tell you. And this is the thing also that has put me where I am today. I had no idea that I would suddenly one day be in this situation where I have a microphone in front of me and somebody wants to listen. Most of these years that I've spent on this, which is like 30 years now, nobody wanted to listen at all.
Right.
But I am at a point now where I think people behind these very dark agendas regret that they didn't do something earlier. So because this is now I'm at a point where the spotlight is a safety mechanism more, you know, because when you're Mr. Nobody, not that there's such a thing, but if you haven't been getting, like if nobody's listening, if nobody's focusing on you and something happens, then you just die, you know, nobody even saw what happened. And there's so many of these people in the surroundings of these terror acts and assassination that drops dead or suicide or die young or something like that, then nobody even knows about. We only know about the ones where they made a mistake or they were sloppy, or suddenly you start seeing a pattern because there's several in a long line dying. So I don't know if I answered the question.
No, you did answer the question. Your family is supportive, but because of the work that you do,
No,
they
but
know you.
it's like I truly believe that I was together with Jim Fetzer, that we exposed two of modern times' worst serial killers. I mean, that was very scary.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea. You know, it's like walking around in a minefield, and you do not know if you stepped on a mine until you hear the click. You know, and then once you've done that, there's no way out. And so it's been very tricky over the years, because the last thing I want to do is put them in jeopardy, or what to do, Mike, what to do when you see the truth, no one else is doing anything about it. What can you do? Either
Right.
you back down, but I can't live with myself if I do that. You know, I just have this in my heart. It needs to be done. Do it, and if not, then live in shame the rest of your life. There's no option for me. What the option for me is to slow down and then speed up, slow down, speed up. I can change the pace. I can't change the direction.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, only because I have family members say to me, you probably should stop doing what you're doing and be careful about what you talk about and who you're speaking to and so on, because we don't want anything to happen to you. And I just don't think in those terms. I don't think in terms of something's going to happen to me. I think in terms of I'm just driven, motivated to get the truth out. I don't think in terms of, I mean, every once in a while, like I said, the thought will cross your mind that, maybe I'm touching on something or venturing into something that is going to get some interest and curiosity my way. But typically, generally speaking, I just don't think that way. It's just keep pushing ahead and keep pushing until the wheels fall off.
But it's also, Mike, you do it in such a beautiful way, because there's no aggression behind it. You know, I really think that if if you come from aggression, if you come from revenge, hate, it will hit back. You attract what you give out. It's the law of action, reaction,
Hmm.
of karma as well. You do it with a pure heart. It's very obvious to me. I mean, the first time I saw your face on Skype, I just felt, there you go, a brother. You know. And it is very obvious, and because of that, you're not in the same danger zone, I believe, than if you came from another. I come from the same angle, and maybe I'm totally naive, or maybe I'm right, but I feel safer coming from that point of view. I feel blessed to be able to handle these situations, these very dark matters, but in a balanced way. And what I feel that is that I'm being used as a tool to remind people, because people know in their heart what is true, what is right, what is wrong. When you do whatever you do, if you hit someone or hit a child or kick a dog, something inside you will tell you, it might have felt good for your ego or whatever, you did it, but not right. And that has nothing to do with laws. I mean, like laws on paper. Sometimes I think I don't give at all about them. But the law of the heart, real law of the universe, I think,
Yeah.
is the one that matters. And that is one. As long as we follow that one, I believe we're safe. Or at least if we have to take the next step and leave this body, then we've done it in a way that we will feel good about ourselves.
Yeah,
So
very well said, Ole. You mentioned before Jim Fetzer, and the next question actually ties into that. The person asks, do you usually work alone, or do you have colleagues or a team that help you investigate?
I always work alone, except when I work together with other people. You
Good
know,
answer.
I I am not part of a group. I'm not an activist. I'm not a political thing. I think politics are absolute something of the most boring uh, and also devious tool that are being used against people. So for me, it's like I see that I've been in groups like out on a Friday night, and we say, where do you want to go? And if you're like 4 or 5 people, you can stand there for like half an hour talking about where to go next or what type of pizza to order. And I just feel I'm not good at this. I need to walk my way and not being involved in a group because I'm not sort of like an alpha male saying we're going that way. Doesn't matter what you say, we're going that way. So I just very quietly walk my own way and get into some very hairy situations when I follow my heart and my intuition. But it's also there where healing can happen, I think, because it's when you enter into the belly of the beast, that is where pure healing can happen. But you need to go there. You need to go there and meet your fears and do it without hate, without aggression, without wanting to kill you, whatever it is. And really, I think without wanting to fight even. It's like when people say fight for peace, and I think absolutely not. Peace for peace.
Right.
You have to be peaceful for peace. You cannot be a freedom or fighting for love or fighting for forgiveness. You can't. It doesn't work. A light warrior, I don't know, but it doesn't really fit. So it's such a tricky one, where there's this amazing man that walked around in something that looked like a diaper many times. His name was Mahatma Gandhi. A man totally, no army, no funds, no titles, no position, no nothing, but an extremely pure heart and so brave. He showed that it was possible to accomplish incredible things without weapons, without hitting, on the contrary, take beating, but without bending. I mean, I totally admire that person.
Yeah.
I know that people say, yeah, but he was not nice to his wife. I mean, come on, give the guy some kind of maybe he had a bad day when the whole of the world's problems were on his shoulders. Maybe he had a bad day and he shouted at her, I'm sorry that he wasn't super perfect, but look what he did with his life. This guy was like 5'2" or something like that, and he managed to get rid of the British Empire out of India. I mean, when you think of it, it is incredible. It is incredible. Without one shot fired, without one word of aggression, without one word, threatening word or anything like that. I mean, what can you say?
Yeah. A lot of people do that where somebody can do an immense amount of good in life, and people will focus on an incident or a rumor or some minor aspect, and they will then take everything that that person has done, all the good, and discard it. Just take it out and say, well, there you go. All the good that Gandhi did, we're going to just negate it because of comments or rumors about how he was with his wife or his interaction with his wife. They do the same thing to John Lennon in a lot of ways. They would vilify Lennon's work. If you read articles, especially articles that at the time they wanted to play down where he was going, especially with the anti-war movement with Vietnam, they'll go back to stories that said, hey, you know what? He used to smoke reefer or he dropped acid. So, that's done in order to take his whole of his work and to minimize it, to marginalize it, and say, "Oh, he did that. Well, I'm just going to disregard everything he's talking about with regard to world peace." So you see it all the time.
But then I would like very much for that person who criticized that to look in the mirror and said, what have you done with your life?
Exactly.
And when you're on the same level of accomplishment, then you can start comparing, and with the same type of pressure on these people as well. When you have been living and walking in their moccasins and shoes, then you can start saying things. It's the same when people are talking about the devil's advocate. I so do not like that. Do you think the devil needs an advocate? I mean, how easy is it to be negative?
Yeah.
I mean, how easy is it to see that things are impossible? How easy is it to see problems? The difficult thing is to see solutions. The difficult thing is to, even though things are dark and scary, that is so obvious that the dark, it's so obvious to point out. Dark, 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 dark. Okay, evil, 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 evil. Fine, it's dark and evil. So what to do with it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing. And then look at people who have managed to do something beautiful with their lives. So, well, what can I say?
Another person wrote in, and this was a very popular show, by the way. It's still getting a lot of hits. I listened to the Laurel Canyon show Ole did with you, Mike, and I was wondering, as a musician himself, does the Paul is dead conspiracy bother Ole? Does he feel betrayed?
No, not betrayed at all. As far as I can see, Mr. Paul McCartney was not Mr. Paul McCartney. As I mean, when you look at the forensic evidence, I've just done the cover and the layout for a book by Nicholas Kollerström. It's called The Life and Death of Paul McCartney, 1942 to 1966, where he goes through in very great detail. It's just gone live on Amazon on 9/11, and in great detail, so many things. I mean, there's so much around this whole thing that shows that for some reason, Paul is not Paul. Do I feel betrayed? Absolutely not. When it comes to him as an individual, I mean, this was a guy, whoever he was, I don't know who the guy was that took over, but he was a guy that at a point in his life suddenly was offered to become world famous, one of the foremost worshipped individuals on this globe. Who can criticize him for just jumping on the train and say, for sure, I'm willing to take the pain from the surgeries and all of these things. I'll do it. And then once he did it, he was caught into this enigma and a way in a life where he could not get out.
Yeah.
He was living a life that was built on a total lie and a total daily fear of exposure. I mean, I do not envy this guy at all.
That's very difficult. Yeah.
Oh.
Waking up every day knowing you are not who you say you are.
No, I say goodbye and you say hello. Do you know, it's like, it's no, and there's so many, it's like incredible when you listen to his interviews when he's talking about Paul, you know, when Paul is talking about Paul and how difficult he has to live up to him and all of these things. Not an easy life. And also with former girlfriends or people that walk up to you that you used to know and then you don't recognize them. I mean, not easy, you know. And more people finding out about it. Oof. So I do not feel betrayed by him. On the contrary, I think why it's important to expose this thing is if they can do it with Paul McCartney, then they can do it with just about anyone else.
Right.
And the more I look into this area of doubles, I mean, there's so many of them. It seems, you know, like Churchill had, I think, about 6. Rommel had a couple, you know, Montgomery had, and so many had double. Stalin, I don't know how many he had. And then when you just upgrade it to modern day life, I mean, now it seems like rock stars has it as well. If they got a bad day, just send out the double. Presidents, and also it seems to me that when you get to a certain level of fame and you get fed up, it's just like you know, like the FBI has like a witness protection program where you just get new identity and stuff like that. That you can create your own death. You just pay for it. You know, just like in Breaking Bad. You know, when Heisenberg wanted out,
yeah,
he paid this guy. He got a new passport. You know, a little bit of operation, surgery, different location, and there you go. Bob's your uncle. And it seems to me, you know, like when you look into some of the deaths of these big guys, there's some massive big question marks. I'm confused when it comes to Michael Jackson's death. I'm confused when it comes to Elvis. I'm confused when it comes to Jim Morrison, Tapur, what's his name?
Tupac?
Tupac.
Yeah.
They're big question marks, and it's not that I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm just confused because I don't know what the real truth is. Because when you look at the crime scenes, they don't match up.
Yeah.
Like with Tupac, I mean, there's some pictures of the car he was shot in and so on, and different car. It's not the same model, you know, the headlights are not the same and stuff like that, and but it's from the same crime scene. So that, just that is sort of like a big question mark. And then he turns up on Cuba, or somebody who looks a lot like him just pops up there and doesn't even get hair, you know. So you think like, I thought you were in hiding, or is this on a totally different level where people are just so comfortable with their new life, knowing that they won't get exposed, so they're walking around openly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hesitate to mention Michael's death, but I must say there are things around that with question marks as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Michael Jackson, though, boy, I tell you what. I mean, the metamorphosis, the operations, and everything else.
mm,
That was a little freaky, you know, because I remember listening to Michael Jackson when I was a kid, his Off the Wall album and stuff like that. And then as the years had gone on, boy, oh boy, he was just out of control with his plastic surgery, and his behavior was he had become erratic, and there were moments when he was, at least it sounded to me like he was trying to out his handlers. I don't know if you ever picked up on that. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
When
it
he
was
was
very
talking
weird.
about when he was talking about Sony and these,
Sony, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But when you look into the music industry today, I mean, my God, they're up against some heavy duty dudes, you
Oh
know,
yeah,
very dark forces in that. And when you're in a situation where he was, to speaking out like that, whoa, that
right.
is also worth applauding.
That's what a lot of people don't understand or realize is the music industry is very, very dark. It's a nasty place, really
It's
bad.
so sad. It's so sad because I used to be a musician myself, and in those days, at least I thought, you know, it was built on talent and that you know, it was music, happy days, all of these things. But then it feels like it was just hijacked as so many other things. You know, in the early 90s, the
Hmm.
whole thing got more and more sinister and more, and the whole hip hop movement where they had all of these very odd meetings with very odd businessmen where the whole thing was just hijacked.
Right.
Hijacked is the word. It was taken over, and the people that took over did not care for music. They
No,
cared for control,
mind control.
control in all different areas. And
Yeah.
now, when you look at some of these artists that sign up, you know, they're beautiful artists, they sign up a year or two later. It's like, where did they go? There's no one home anymore, you know, when you look in their eyes,
Yep.
and scary, beautiful people, very talented, and then I don't know, it's like they're being eaten.
Well, the perfect example, because she's always in the news, is Miley Cyrus. You take a look at when she was a kid
Yeah,
and to what's going on today. It's horrific.
yeah, she's lost it totally.
Yeah. But talking
But then,
about music, I'm going.
but
Go ahead.
no, I just want to say, you know, like when you listen to someone like Bob Dylan, who's been around for such a long time, when he totally seriously says that he signed a deal with the devil, that he gave up his soul for his career, and he signed a deal with the devil, I think it's a good indication. I'm not sure what he means by the devil. When it sounds to me like he's talking about the real thing, I don't know, but somebody who's very eager to get into the music business should maybe pay attention to these type of things
And that
because
clip is on YouTube.
he said it more than once.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Now, here's a question for you. We're talking about music, and you had said that you were a musician. I believe you are still a musician. This person wrote in and said, I have listened to Ole's music, and I love it. Is he planning on doing any new songs in the future?
First of all, thank you so much. The thing is, my life, I devoted my life to music, and then this crap happened, you know. Suddenly I was off in this direction. And all I want to do is get this world back in balance and then get back in the studio. I would love to make more music. I
Yeah.
tell you, I would absolutely, and I would love to jam or play with you, Mike. One day, a cold beer,
We'll make
two
it happen.
guitars. Yeah, it's gonna happen. But music is really where I long to get back to that.
Another person wrote in and said, with the false flag and staged events like Sandy Hook, does Ole believe that no one died, or do people actually die when these go down?
The answer is yes. People die sometimes, and many times it's staged. It's very, very hard to know. And you really need, like at the Norway, for instance, the Norway mass shooting, the bomb that went off, or whatever it was that went off at the government building in Oslo, I believe there were real victims on one side of the building and total crisis actors on the other side of the building. The other side of the building, these people were then pumped, the pictures of these people were then pumped out in global media, being the new cover girls of terror globally. I mean, horrific images. One with a 20, I mean, like a, I don't know what that is in inches, but like a 30 centimeter rod coming out of her head. And the other one that needed 60 or 70 stitches in her face. But when you look at it, absolute not real.
Yeah.
So tricky question. Sandy Hook, 0 died. I can say that. Boston bombing, 0 died. I can tell you that. This late TV shooting, 0 died. You know, so many of these false flags. I am not sure that there has been a real mass shooting. I don't say that, maybe I'm pushing it now, but the more I look into it, it seems to me like every single one of them are false flag operation. Sometimes with real victims, but most of the times not nowadays. I think especially after 9/11, that's when they started having problems. Like I normally say, especially with mothers. You don't want the mother of a dead child following you, especially if you murdered the child. These women will not back down. If they've lost their child, they've nothing else to lose, and they will hunt you down. So the more people you kill in these actions, the more angry mothers. And I think after 9/11, that was just enough. And they came to a point, I've spoken to Chip Tatum about that as well, where they came to a point where we need to be able to control all parameters, all different areas of an operation. We cannot have like wild cards or jokers or things like that. Everything needs to be on total control. So in comes crisis actors.
Okay. Another question a subscriber asked, does Ole ever get to meet other JFK assassination researchers like Robert Morningstar and share thoughts or debate each other's theories?
The only one I've had the pleasure to meet online is Jim Fetzer, and it's wonderful. We so do not agree about some things, but we're so open to learn from each other. I love that about Jim because he says things I think that is so not true, and I say things where he's just shaking his head, and we just embrace each other and say, "But please tell me about this, tell me about that. What about this? What about this?" I think it's great. I love it like that. Instead of us standing, it's a matter of the ego. If you got an ego, which most researchers have, that gets inflated, I'm right, you're wrong, then it doesn't lead anywhere. My whole purpose is to let's find the truth. Whoever comes up with it, I don't care. Great. Bring it on. But to get into debates, I'm so not interested in arguing. I'm so not interested in having debates or anything like that. An exchange of thoughts, of information, and something that will lead forward, count me in.
Here's a question. This is an interesting one. Ole is always very optimistic, and I love that about him. But does he ever have moments when he thinks we're screwed?
Yep. No, but I was joking there. I was joking there. Because the thing is, when I ask my mind says, "You have had it. You are going down. How dare you be optimistic when you look at these things? That is not being truthful. You must be lying." My ego says that.
Mm-hmm.
My heart tells me, and I listen to that one. My heart tells me, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. We will be okay. I have no idea how it's going to happen. how we're gonna manifest whatever is coming on its way. I just know that we're gonna be fine. Call me a liar. I just know it. There's no logic to it. And it's not that I'm a really religious freak. I just know it, and either I'm gonna die surprised, or I'm gonna be right, and we're all gonna be fine, and then that's perfect.
Well, of course, and the more people that awaken to the truth, then that supports everything's going to be okay, because then the lies, they won't stand.
And this is the thing: the more people I might be able to affect in a positive way, I think that's wonderful. If it's only one or two or 10, I mean, that in itself is just magical, because every single one that changes into a more positive way of living affects so many people around them. And then they affect people around them, and then they affect people around them. And I'm just very grateful to people like yourself, Mike, that you have created a platform for people like myself to be heard, because I think we're spreading beauty, It is, we're under massive attack, and we're spreading beauty. That I love that. Grace under pressure is one of my favorite expressions.
Yeah.
The silver surfer, to be able to surf the waves, doesn't matter how scary they look, to still be able to it, or fail and then get up on the board again, but not giving up.
We have to just keep doing it, getting the truth out there. And to answer this person's question, like I had mentioned, when we start getting true critical mass and people awaken, then everything that they're seeing that's wrong in the world, all the deception, all the lies, it will fade away. It will go away, because the only way it's able to stand right now is that there are so many people that still believe in the stories that are being put out there, and they're being duped and manipulated. But as when you wake up, then all that duping and all that manipulation will go away.
Do you know, like David Icke, he said, he described once that he saw this, it was like a human pyramid of people standing on each other's shoulder, making a pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked really impressive, like, oh my God, there was, I don't know how many people standing. And then the guy down in one of the corners sneezed. And that sneeze made the whole thing collapse.
Yeah, right.
Once it gets out of balance, once we shake this system enough, it's just going to fall down
Yeah.
on its own. And this is, I must say, because I have a love affair with truth. I love the truth. I love it because it's so simple. It fears no investigation. It just is. There's no smell to it. It's just like a pure, like a white rose. But when you have conspiracies, my God, it's like a rotten boil with maggots inside. It's so awful, and it's hidden with more and more lies and death and destruction and deceit and fear and violence, and it's just so rotten. But the truth, whew. So this is one of the ways I follow and get into these conspiracies with the intention of healing it, and the truth will heal it. Once the truth come out, it is like underneath all of this black, awful, smelly stuff. There's this rose just coming, boom. Do you know the lily, the lily flower?
Mm-hmm.
It has its roots down in the mud, down at the bottom of the sea, and it's the pure beauty of it, but with the roots in the absolute mud. And I think that is how to transform it, to come from the mud, but then transform it into something.
Here's the last question that I have. Subscriber wrote in and said, Mike, I listened to 2 shows where Ole mentions his friendship with Chip Tatum. Is it possible you, meaning Mike, can do a show with Ole and Chip?
I would love to. I would absolutely love. I've done several shows with Chip. I'm totally when I do shows with him, I go totally quiet.
Okay.
Because I listen and learn. I'm amazed because this is a man with a life that is just it's unreal. Really, it's incredible. But as far as I know, he's just moved down to South America again. He's actually renting Pablo Escobar's brother's house in Colombia, and it's like from a TV.
I was going to say,
But
interesting friends.
Chip is one of the most interesting friends I have, and it's a very confusing as well because I know what he's been part of. I know what he's been doing with his life. At the same time, I think as a very, very honorable person, very, very brave, very, very trustworthy. And maybe he's taking me to a total right, you know. Who knows? They say CIA, once CIA, always CIA. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally being duped. And so be it. I also know that this might seem strange, but you know, when you look at the world, in this world, at this point, we're called monsters if we kill people. But it's just an ordinary job if you kill cows. You know, if you slaughter in a slaughterhouse every day and you kill cows,
Right.
that's just getting you a paycheck. So, but when you look at when you are in different extreme situations, how your moral views change, and Chip was on a very early age being duped or tricked into this very violent world that he lived in for many years. And I asked him about how he felt, and he said, "I know exactly what I've done. There are few things I regret. I know my time will come, and that I will have to pay, and I'm willing to take it." And in that, I mean, what can I say? I just applaud him for being who he is. He's just become a dad. He's 64, 65. He's just become a dad again, and he's living life day by day, knowing that these bad boys, I mean, they so would like to take him out. I can
Right.
tell you, or get him back in jail, or get him out of the way. And he's still standing. So once again, this is a person that I can applaud, even though I in no way do I approve of what he did before. But who am I to
Yeah.
blame?
Does he ever talk about, and I know you're not Chip, so I'm just asking this out of curiosity, Ole. Does Chip ever talk about what was the moment in time that was the turning point where he went from what he used to do with the CIA to where he is right now? In other words, he said, I just can't do this anymore. Was there an
Yeah,
event?
yeah, absolutely. It was when George Bush Sr. said, "Take out Ross Perot," and Chip was like, you know, that was it, because let me see if I remember right.
Okay, I
Ross
didn't know
Perot,
any, I didn't know any of this. So there was an order by Bush to take out Perot.
okay, Chip was the commander of Pegasus, an ultra-secret hit team under the direct control of George Bush Sr. He was part of taking out 14 people in this team
Hmm.
globally. It was not in the States. It was in Europe and other places. Ross Perot was a billionaire who found out and was very upset that there were still prisoners in Vietnam held there. So he went and wanted to see the president and saying, "Listen, this is not on. We need to get them out." I'm not sure why these people are still being kept there. I think maybe because they know too much of the whole drug trafficking behind the Vietnam War. I don't know why they are still being kept. But Ross Perot was very furious, and he went to see the president to say, "Listen, we need to solve this." Bush stopped him and said, "Listen, back off. This is not up to you, just back off." And then Ross Perot said, "Well, listen, I'm a billionaire. I can do whatever I want, so I'm going to run for president, and then I'm going to sort this." Suddenly a threat, direct threat to George Bush Sr. So George Herbert Walker Bush told Chip, he called him in and said, "Listen, we have a problem. Get rid of this guy. Eliminate him." And Chip changes from time to time, saying that he didn't really ask, he wasn't told to kill him, but to neutralize him. But he said different version of that one, so I'm not really sure. I think it was kill him.
Yeah.
And at that point, Chip had had doubts for a long time. That was just it. It was it. He just stood up against Bush and said, "Absolutely not. I'm not doing it. I have never ever, you know, sworn to kill people in the US on national ground for no apparent reason. At that time as well, when Bush came in when he took over as the director for the CIA after William Colby, Colby had told Chip, you need to gather a lot of insurance, what he called insurance, because Colby was the one that recruited Chip when he was 19, and he kept him under his wing his whole career. And Colby said, it's too late for me. He died a few years later as well, was murdered. But so Chip started collecting what was called insurance, meaning evidence against these guys, Bush, Clinton, other people as well, the whole drug around Iran-Contras, because Chip was one of the pilots involved in that and many, many other things. So when Bush got really upset with him and said, either you take care of Perot or we take care of you, Chip said, before you even think about finishing me, maybe you should see this. And he had like a video cassette of some of the evidence that he had gathered. So that made them slow down. And then, as far as I understood, it came to a situation where he accepted to take a jail sentence to discredit himself, so that the accusations, if he ever came with accusations against Bush, that it wouldn't be taken as seriously because he was a felon. Mm-hmm. So they came to, he had 6 or 7 different locations in the world where this evidence was located, and it is still to this very day. And if Chip doesn't contact these 6 or 8 contacts every day, every year at a certain time and date, it will be released, this info, and they know that. He came to an agreement. He took a couple of years in prison where he went through hell, and then after that he was let loose. But the reason he's able to speak about these things that he does today is just because it came to the court case, and the judge said, you're being accused of all of this treason and I don't know, all of these things. And Chip said, okay, in that case, I want to call, and he wanted to call a lot of witnesses, and all of them needed high-level security clearance, which would have taken years and years and years to get these just to try his case. So the judge said, listen, let's do it like this. We take away, you are allowed to speak about this, not that, this, not that, this, not that, and then we take this into court. So that's what they did. So Chip he's allowed to speak freely about many of these operations, but certain things not until the year of 2017. So maybe we should do this show in 2017.
2 years. So did he have direct conversations with Bush, or was it through an intermediary?
No. Chip has been in direct communication with all presidents from Nixon and to George Bush Sr. All of them. He's been their private pilot. He's been the guy, the one. So he's been on Jupiter Island with Bush. He's been, all of these things. He's seen. I mean, this is the closest to a James Bond you can get, I tell you.
I would love to have Chip come on the show.
Yeah, and it would be an amazing show. I can feel the chemistry would be great. But when I asked him, because you asked me a while ago, I asked him. He said, "I'm not doing shows at the moment."
Okay.
So, and I haven't heard from him for a while.
Yeah, that's fair enough. When he frees up, or when he's ready, or if he's ever ready again, hopefully he'll come on.
He's been extremely kind to me. I was under a lot of attack. My website was being smashed, crashed, and whatever a few years ago. As soon as I got it up and running, and boom, it was hit. And then somebody said, "Why don't you ask Chip?" Because he has set up a special server. So I asked him. He said, "No problem." So I'm on his server now, and everything has been running smoothly ever since.
Okay, great. Well, Ole, that's all I had. And is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Your website or your book?
My website is lightonconspiracies.com. Lightonconspiracies.com, because that is exactly what I try to do. I have an upcoming tour here, a tour that, like I said, I'm just a one-man band, but I'm going to the Open Mind Conference in a few days, on the 19th and 20th of September. It's in Copenhagen, Denmark. And I'm going to talk about false flags and these things, but also I'm going to have the incredible pleasure of doing an interview from an audience of Judith Barry Baker, who was Lee Harvey Oswald's girlfriend and also a part of a team in 1963 that was working very hard on creating a bioweapon against Fidel Castro.
Okay.
And I think she is the most brave woman I have ever come across. She's in her 70s now. She's the only one alive. Everyone else have been murdered around her over the years. She's she's in Sweden living on a taken identity. And it's just, she's doing all of this, putting herself through all this, the nightmare she's been going through since the late 90s, all of it based on her love for Lee Harvey Oswald. Her books, I can totally recommend their books called Me and Lee, and another one is called Dave Ferry. And in that, she describes exactly what was going around the Kennedy assassination, because it's so much bigger than most people have any idea about. If you want to, we can do a Kennedy show one time.
Sure.
And because through Judith, suddenly all of these enigmas that are inside a labyrinth, that is inside a casket that is sunk on the bottom of the sea and keys thrown away, suddenly they make sense. And it's through this bioweapon that so much mayhem has happened in the world, because the bioweapon it was a weapon based on the SV40 cancer virus, a very, very aggressive cancer virus that they were trying to use against him. But that virus was taken from the polio vaccine that was injected in some 200 million American citizens, and I don't know how many millions in Europe in the early 60s. The SV40 virus was from the monkey's kidney where these vaccines were grown on, but the virus was still live. And there was one of Judith's colleagues she discovered just before the release of this vaccine that this virus was alive and that was cancer causing, that it was an aggressive live cancer virus in the vaccine itself. So she went to her boss, his name was Alton Oshner, a very famous man at that time in the US, and said, please, we need to stop this, But he said, absolutely not. It was just like with the swine flu, they had made a massive campaign and they've invested, billions and billions into this thing. So he said, to calm people down, he said, I'm going to go out in the press and I'm going to give an injection to both my grandchildren. Well, his grandson, who was, I think, 12 years, died within 24 hours, and his granddaughter had got polio, severe polio, for the rest of her life, and still they went along with it. So people like you, like me, we are having this SV40 virus in our bodies, sleeping, and it gets very easily activated by radiation and these type of things. So scanners, all types of these type of things, is very, very dangerous to us. And what they knew in the early 60s was that they were looking at a future epidemic of global size in somewhere in the mid-1980s, which is exactly what we've seen as well.
Yeah.
And many of the cancer growths, when you take them and you dissect them, you will find the SV40 virus in them. So this is also why they wanted to stop Judith from speaking out, and this is why I think she's the most important witness in the world at the moment. And she, if anyone, should have witness protection programs taken care of, and she's all on her own. A beautiful woman in her early 70s. She's all on her own. Bad eyesight, no guards, no nothing. I mean, really, this sucks. This is it. I feel upset about that, and when I'm anywhere near where she is, if I can, I go there. I'll do anything I can to protect her.
Yeah.
because she has paid a high price. Anyway, so I'm going to the Open Mind in Copenhagen. Then I'm going to go to the south of Sweden, do a talk there about the Norwegian shootings, mass shootings. Then Gothenburg, the same. Stockholm, I'm going to do guided tour around the site of the assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister. Because that, when you're on site, it's a 4 to 5 hour walk. I tell you, it blows your mind once you start seeing what actually took place there that day. It's an incredible thing, just like the JFK. Or it's even, I would say, just as multi-layered as the JFK assassination. Incredible.
Yeah.
And then I've been warned about going back to Norway and talk about these mass shootings. So I'm going to go back to Norway and talk about these mass shootings twice in Oslo, on location, very close to where it happened. And my intention is healing, because this is such a trauma, and it's so sensitive to touch this area. I mean, there's the official story, that's it. You cannot even mention anything else. So I hope that people will welcome me and see my intention, and that I will not hurt families or friends of victims and so on. But it needs to get exposed. It really needs to get exposed. And then from then on, I do 2 talks there. I hope that the first talk will generate that people will go home, talk to their friends, families, and so on. And that the second talk, which is 2 days later, will have a bigger audience about this.
Okay, well, just be safe.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, I know that the last time I was there was people from the security police and so on, but I welcome them as well, because they are so duped, and not many of them. I mean, these are not people that wake up in the morning saying, let me see what evil can I do today. It's not like Dr. Evil. Not that time. These are ordinary people thinking that they're doing good stuff, that they're doing it for the security of the nation, but they have been hijacked as well.
Right.
So they need to hear these things as well. So I welcome them as well. And I also wish that they will not do stupid things with me. So then from there on, I go to Berlin to an anti-human harassment conference in Berlin, where I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to improvise and see how it goes, which is a bit scary for me to do, but I feel that that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to come home and be in my bed for a day or 2.
Well, a very, very busy schedule, Ole. And good for you for getting out there. It's a lot of legwork, and you're working really hard at getting the truth out there. So tip my hat to you.
Thank you, Mike. I tip my hat to you. It's like Bob Marley said, I'm just a simple man with a simple wish. I just want to unite mankind.
Yeah.
That's it. It's very simple. Can I finish with a prayer?
Absolutely.
It's my Raja Yoga teacher, Nelani Chelaram's prayer. That's Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is the science of the mind, how to calm down your mind and how to control you. And I'm extremely grateful to Nelani as well, because she is one of the people that have showed me how to get into this dark area without fear, hatred, anger, these things that will contaminate the intention. The prayer goes like this. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. Victory to that light. And then I just forgot to tell you that at the Open Mind Conference in Copenhagen, my dear friend Louise Sutton is going to come as well. She's my neighbor here in Spain. And she's going to come there as well and give a short introduction of the Full Circle Project, which involves both Sen Gardner from Uruguay, Max Egan in Australia, myself, and other people. You can go to the website. It's fullcircleproject.net. It's about how to get people to see that there is a way of getting the power back, taking the power back, not violently, but not just by not giving it up, and by informing themselves to get the strength back, and to let us take our countries and air and food and and everything back, our finances, everything back, because we've been totally robbed and plundered.
Yeah, I joined. It's connecting all like-minded people for a great cause, so everybody should go there.
It is meant as a grassroots movement with no leaders.
Mm-hmm.
It is so important. There's no leaders, there's no political agenda, nothing. Truth is the way, happiness is the way forward, how to join together and help each other in all possible ways. That's the whole idea.
Great cause. And you guys, I know Max had it on his radar for a long time, and it's there now, and I highly recommend to the audience that you go to the Full Circle Project, to the website, sign up, get together with some like-minded people, and start to change the world for the better.
I would also like to add, if anyone believes in what I'm doing, there is a very great way of helping, because people say, but what can I do? What can I do? You can support people like Mike, myself, other researchers that you respect and so on. And also, as an exchange of energy, put in, the dollars where your intention is. Because for me, for instance, I so want to get out there, be on location, wherever it is that goes down. If I can be there to have a calming effect or do something for the betterment of the world, wherever it is, if it's meeting gang members, or if it's in the front line, or if it's in jails, or wherever it is, I'm so happy to do it. I'm so happy to do it, but I need help to get there. Even I've been thinking about maybe approaching airlines and just saying, listen guys, this is what I'm trying to do. Let me come on board, fly me wherever, and I'll deliver what I can, and then you can take me back home. If anyone out there is connected to an airline or anything like that, Greyhound buses, or wants to arrange conferences or tours, or get me there, wherever, if you can just fix it financially for me to get there, and at the same time take care of my family, I'm there.
Yeah, and I'll make sure the links are all in the show notes, Ole. I always do that for you.
It also goes to speaking to military people, or police, SWAT teams, Delta groups, whatever, because these people in uniforms are some of the people that we need to take care of the most, because they, if anyone, have been so duped and so brainwashed into believing that what they do is the right thing, and it is not.
Yeah.
It is not. They are the defenders of this very brutal agenda, and we need to wake them up, because they're being turned against us instead of to be there to defend us.
That's exactly right. Well, Ole, I don't want to keep you because you've been so generous with your time, as you always are, and I know it's getting into dinner time there in Spain, so I want to thank you, as always, for coming on the show and talking with me.
It's my absolute pleasure, Mike, as always.
And that concludes our interview with Ole Dammegård, and I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. Ole's work is completely self-funded, so if you could take a moment and visit his website, lightonconspiracies.com, and consider donating or sponsoring his work, it would be greatly appreciated. You can also purchase Ole's books at his website, including the highly acclaimed Coup d'etat in Slow Motion. And as always, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and visiting the blog. You can get to the blog by typing in sageofquayradio.blogspot.com, or simply head over to our hub website at sageofquay.com. Also, if you get a moment, please visit laboroflovemusic.com to listen to my album, Leaving Dystopia. And remember, live in truth and always serve creation. It's really that simple. And to sign off, here's Ole's song, From Prison to Paradise. See everyone next week. Be safe, enjoy, and God bless.
It's our future.
Once upon a time, in a place not far from here, there was so much loneliness, despair, and oh so much fear. Darkness ruled all over the land, there was lightning in the sky, causing wars and separation, with no one knowing why. These evil times raised leaders, disguised as kind and true, hiding the true and misty fogs only very few people knew. Controlled by an elite few, closing out the line of power that can make us all be free. Wake up. 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 Forced by invisible powers, demanded to conform into shapes unknown to mankind, making him totally abnormal. Drowned in debts and sorrows, blaming others for the lot. Made man believe to be inferior, feeling tiny like a dot. But then came time of change, covering countries and their towns. Few became many, and soon the prison walls came down. Starting with a wind in the mirror, staring right back into their eyes, understanding that this was a chance to stop those hideous lies. Unhappiness is merely an illusion of misery, based on brainwashing and misconception of true reality. From now on, let's build bridges between our souls and hearts, so we together can rejoice when the final change comes to its start. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. We gotta wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. We gotta wake up. Turn prison into paradise may seem too much to achieve, but believe it only takes one small spirit to be free. The true power of the pyramid is never ever meant to talk. Instead, it's we the people that can make this global